tragically accurate. President Putin of Russia has unleashed war in our European continent. He's attacked a friendly country without any provocation and without any credible excuse. Innumerable missiles and bombs have been raining down on an entirely innocent population. A vast invasion is underway, by land, by sea, and by air. And this is not in the infamous phrase, some faraway country of which we know little. We have Ukrainian friends in this country, neighbours, co-workers. Ukraine is a country that for decades has enjoyed freedom and democracy and the right to choose its own destiny. We and the world cannot allow that freedom just to be snuffed out. We cannot and will not just look away. It's because we've been so alarmed in recent months at Russian intimidation that the UK became one of the first countries in Europe to send defensive weaponry to help the Ukrainians. Other allies have now done the same, and we will do what more we can in the days ahead. Today, in concert with our allies, we will agree a massive package of economic sanctions designed in time to hobble the Russian economy. And to that end, we must also collectively cease the dependence on Russian oil and gas that for too long has given Putin his grip on Western politics. Our mission is clear. Diplomatically, politically, economically, and eventually militarily, this hideous and barbaric venture of Vladimir Putin must end in failure. And so I say to the people of Russia, whose president has just authorized a tidal wave of violence against a fellow Slavic people, the parents of Russian soldiers who will lose their lives, I cannot believe this is being done in your name, or that you really want the pariah status it will bring to the Putin regime. And I say to the Ukrainians in this moment of agony, we are with you. We're praying for you and your families, and we are on your side. And if the months ahead are grim and the flame of freedom burns low, I know that it will blaze bright again in Ukraine, because for all his bombs and tanks and missiles, I don't believe that the Russian dictator will ever subdue the national feeling of the Ukrainians and their passionate belief that their country should be free. I say to the British people and all who have heard the threats from Putin against those who stand with Ukraine, we will, of course, do everything to keep our country safe. We're joined in our outrage by friends and allies around the world. We will work with them for however long it takes to ensure that the sovereignty and independence of Ukraine is restored. Because this act of wanton and reckless aggression is an attack not just on Ukraine, it's an attack on democracy and freedom in Eastern Europe and around the world. This crisis is about the right of a free, sovereign, independent European people to choose their own future. And that is a right that the UK will always defend.
So the Prime Minister Boris Johnson there in his statement to the nation responding to Russia's decision to launch a major military assault on Ukraine. Let's get some instant reaction to it. Our political editor Beth Rigby is in Westminster. And strong words there from the Prime Minister, Beth. He said, our worst fears have now come true. President Putin has unleashed war on our European continent.
Yes, the Prime Minister there confirming that he was woken shortly after 4 a.m. to be told that there was now a full-scale invasion of the Ukraine in what could be the largest conflict in Europe since 1945. So these really are grave and dark times. And the Prime Minister there, what was his message? There are a few things in that. First was an acknowledgement about the gravity of the situation. He said, our worst fears have now come true. Putin of Russia has unleashed a war in our European continent, missiles and bombs raining down on an innocent population, a vast invasion underway. He then went on to reassure allies and Ukrainians that the UK will not look away. He said we cannot and will not just look away. He then went on to talk about what more the UK intends to do. We've seen this across Europe and obviously the US as well. He talked about more sanctions. He said there would be a massive package of sanctions designed to hobble the Russian economy. The Prime Minister will be making a statement in the Commons later today where no doubt he will expand on that. And in the EU, they are also agreeing a package of sanctions. So this will be coordinated across NATO and across European allies. He then said to the Ukrainian people, if the months ahead are grim and the flame of freedom burns low, we will make sure it blazes bright again. He then said to the British people, we will do everything to keep our country safe. He said we will work to ensure that the sovereignty and independence of Ukraine is restored. But he also warned that this could, as he said earlier in the week, that this could be a protracted and bloody invasion that could go on for a long time, for many months. He said it's not just an attack on Ukraine, but an attack on democracy, and the UK will always defend the principle of democracy. So the Prime Minister there standing side by side with the Ukrainian president, with the people of Ukraine and with NATO allies in terms of what it means in the coming days. Those economic sanctions will come, but also questions now clearly about what additional military assistance might be given to Ukraine by NATO allies. Already some MPs, David Davis, the former leadership contender, former cabinet minister, saying this morning that it's time for NATO to give air support to Ukraine in light of the Russian incursion, and that could be under discussion later today in the House of Commons.
Beth, thanks very much indeed. So let's take a look at what we know so far of what's been happening in Ukraine over the last few hours. President Putin said he has begun a special military operation in the Donbass in eastern Ukraine. But within minutes of that announcement, multiple explosions were heard in Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. There were also explosions heard in the city of Kharkiv in the northeast of Ukraine. Ukraine's emergency service has reported shelling in the western city of Lviv, which is only 70 kilometres from the border with Poland. Multiple blasts have been heard near the city of Mariupol in the southeast, where Reuters journalists have seen tanks which they say appear to belong to Ukrainian military heading towards the city. Ukraine's border guard agency said the Russian military attacked from neighbouring Belarus, and that Russia has been moving military equipment from annexed Crimea into Ukraine. Well, a short while ago, the regional authority in the port city of Odessa said there had been a missile attack there. Well, there are now reports of civilian fatalities. 18 people are reported to have been killed in that missile strike in Odessa in southern Ukraine. At least 6 have been killed in Broravy on the western outskirts of Kyiv. And Ukrainian emergency services say a boy has been killed in Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine after shelling hit a block of flats. So let's just show you the scene now in Kiev, where the authorities are considering their next move. There have been some reports of explosions being heard in the capital city, and also reports of queues of traffic of people trying to leave. We have heard in the last hour from Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary-General as well, who has had some stern words of condemnation in response to this Russian action. He called it a grave moment for the security of Europe. So let's get more now on the reaction to Russia's move. Deborah Haynes, our Defence and Security Editor, is in Kiev for us now. So, Deborah, give us a sense of what we know so far of the military situation on the ground there in Ukraine.
Well, in terms of right here in the centre of Kiev, it's